as soon as she sort of diagnosed me, she said the first thing I want to do is do the MP thyroid, do the vitamin D, but also gave me sort of a paleo eating plan. She said, hey, I think you really need to do an elimination diet and then also really consider paleo. Here's what that means. Of course, I knew about paleo, but more importantly, we did the elimination diet first. And so that was really restrictive, of course, like no sugar, no dairy, no grains. Within 2 weeks, like I'd never felt better in my life, right? Clear head, none of that bloated feeling. But that was just the beginning.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Hello, we've got Kelly with us today. Kelly, thank you for being here.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, welcome. It's great to. I always get excited to talk to people that have had some success with different nutrition and lifestyle stuff. I think that's the way to go rather than just taking pills all the time. So, Kelly, tell us a little bit. Where are you from currently? Where are you at right now?
Yeah, I am in Charleston, South Carolina, originally from North Carolina, and it's hot and muggy here.
I think that's most of the country right now. It seems like that.
Yeah.
I was in Texas this weekend, and then I was in Atlanta just before that, and it was hot and muggy both of them. Actually, I'm in Washington State, so it's actually not too bad. It's about 80 today,
Oh, nice.
so not bad. So I was just kind of looking at your background. It looks like you had some issues with thyroid issues, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, an autoimmune condition that's very, very common and particularly common in women. Just tell us a little of your background. I know you've been, like you said, you like to just take care of yourself your whole life, but I'll let you go ahead and kind of tell that story, I suppose.
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks everybody for letting me join your meeting and give my success story. My background is, I kind of grew up being active as a kid. We're always outside playing sports, doing things that were healthy and active. Always worked out, played sports, and never really honestly thought much about what I ate beyond trying to eat a relatively well-balanced diet. And to me that meant vegetables, meat, grains, kind of the standard fare, and never really had a lot of issues. I'm a petite, small person, never had weight issues. So to me, being healthy was really like getting to the gym, lifting weights, doing yoga, that kind of stuff. And it wasn't until probably my late 30s when I really started to notice like fatigue, and really a lot of fatigue, brain fog, kind of forgetting what I wanted to talk about or say. And so just really starting to feel like something was going on, major mood swings. So that's kind of my background. And at that point I determined, I need to do some lab tests and figure out what's going on.
And at that time, how long did it take you to figure out what's going on? I mean, was it initially the first? A lot of times they'll check a thyroid relatively early on and things. Was that figured out pretty quickly?
Yeah, well, I kind of put it off for a while. So here I was, a year and a half or so, just kind of dealing with these symptoms, trying to exercise my way out of it, which doesn't work, by the way. And decided finally to get a comprehensive panel done. And I did that on my own. I reached out to Direct Labs. You can go and, do that on your own, and got those labs, and then found a functional medicine doctor where I went to her and she helped me then to analyze those results. And at that point she said, yeah, you've got some stuff going on with your thyroid. My antibodies were pretty high. So it was just kind of assessing at that point what to do next.
Did you, Hashimoto's is an autoimmune condition, and we see a lot of autoimmune conditions have sort of a underlying gut issue at the same time. Did you have any sort of symptoms of gut pathology that going on at the same time?
I did, Shawn. I had a lot. So I just had this consistent, bloating and digestive issues, almost like IBS. I don't think it necessarily was that to that extreme, but the bloating, and I'm sure people can relate. I mean, I was 4 months pregnant all the time, and that's not fun. It doesn't feel comfortable. It also doesn't look great. And I knew that there was some sort of gut, connection here.
Yeah, and were you able to, I mean, obviously later on, you figured out some of the dietary things that probably helped your gut, I'm assuming, but I'm not going to just make that assumption without you confirming that. But did you ever think that, I mean, because I assume you're on a relatively, what you thought was a relatively healthy diet up until that point, correct? Just kind of
Yeah.
whole foods, probably organic stuff, so on and so forth, fruits and vegetables and that type of stuff. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it is. And, lots of smoothies, lots of smoothie bowls. I would shove kale in there, all kinds of stuff. And again, just thinking that that was clean and healthy. Now, looking back, I can see that that was probably contributing to a lot of my gut issues.
Yeah, it's interesting, and again, this is purely speculative and correlative, but I mean, if you look at, like, button eat more vegetables and then instances of more. I mean, that's not just making it up. There's actual data that shows that significantly. And women also suffer significantly more, about 2 to 1 on autoimmune diseases. So is there some sort of thing going on there? I mean, it's interesting to point out. I know a lot of people will say that that's impossible, but that relationship does exist. And so it's interesting. So how did you, so you go to, I've got Hashimoto's thyroiditis. They put you on a thyroid replacement, I'm guessing. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, NP thyroid. And she put me on a couple supplements. I mean, vitamin D, which, honestly, I think was helpful. Funny enough, I felt like I was getting outside enough, especially living in Charleston, and being an active person, but that actually made a big improvement too.
And so how long did that go, just taking the replacement and you just kind of kept doing what you're doing, I guess, with regards to nutrition?
No, actually, she right as soon as she sort of diagnosed me, she said the first thing I want to do is do the MP thyroid, do the vitamin D, but also gave me sort of a paleo eating plan. She said, "Hey, I think you really need to do an elimination diet, and then also really consider paleo. Here's what that means." Of course, I knew about paleo, but more importantly, we did the elimination diet first, and so that was really restrictive, of course, like no sugar, no dairy, no grains. Within 2 weeks, like I'd never felt better in my life, right? Clear head, none of that bloated feeling. But that was just the beginning. As we continued through, she's like, well, once you start feeling better, maybe add in eggs again. Try eggs, see if you feel okay. Maybe try to add in a little bit of milk, see how you feel, or cream or whatever. So I went down that path and continued on the paleo. But as I did my research, of course, on like autoimmune diets that were, beneficial, I started to see more people who were eliminating more, vegetables and doing more meat. And so as I went down that rabbit hole per se, I started testing that out and I felt better and better. And really what I mean by that is my gut was like, no bloating, just completely felt better. And to me, that was life changing. I mean, coming from 10 good years, 15 years of having bloating and gut issues, I couldn't really believe it. So to me, after I started feeling that way, more meats, less vegetables, I just kept going down that path. And that's still where I am today, mostly a Ketovore diet, meaning occasional vegetables, but mostly meat. Lots of eggs.
It's interesting to think that, a diet that bloats your guts and in many cases causes dental issues is appropriate for us. It seems like that wouldn't be the appropriate diet for our species, and obviously you see when you cut out like sugars and some of these maybe high fiber containing foods or your sugars themselves, we see the bloating go away. And so you said you started feeling better with regards to your digestion. How did what were some of the clinical, you said you were fatigued, and did that start to get better too?
It did. Basically, my fogginess went away, much more clear headed. I didn't really have any more fatigue. But one thing that my doctor did have me do was I was doing these really intense like HIIT classes, and I was doing a lot of exercise. She's like, why don't you back down off that and really bring that stress level down as we're trying to fix your gut and fix the diet portion. And so I took a big break. I did some like really gentle yoga, and I just walked. And so I think that that definitely helped me too to sort of stabilize. Now I'm sort of more on the line of doing walking, but I just lift heavy weights, and I don't do as much like high intensity. And I think that really works well for me.
Yeah, yeah, I think that that can be a great comment. Walking's great. I mean, walking is something. Avoiding sedentary behavior is so incredibly important. How about your antibodies, your thyroid antibodies, your TPO
Yeah.
levels and things like that? Did those things start to normalize?
Well, it takes some time. So over the past 2 years, it went from 2 to 300, which was really, really high. But recently, when I went about a month ago, they're down around 100. So they are getting better. And I'm hoping that they'll continue to get better, as I just continue to try to be consistent and heal my gut.
Yeah, are you outside of diet? I mean, obviously, you said you've been healthy your whole life. Are there any other sort of things that maybe increased or decreased? I mean, you mentioned the exercise intensity. Outside of those things, to continue to see improvement, sleep. I don't know, some other. There's a lot of different things people like to play with the so-called biohacking stuff. But any of those things you've been doing?
Um, yeah, I mean, I definitely focused on my sleep. I tried to get to bed earlier and definitely tried to, normalize that, which kind of put me on a normal schedule of like rising with the sun, which was really interesting. Not much need for an alarm clock, but yeah, that sleep was a big part of it, and just kind of I would say, Shawn, the biggest thing was just like bringing it down on the exercise because I've always kind of been an exercise fanatic, again, thinking that's the way I needed to be healthy. And now I realize, that's not the most important thing. It is important, but the gut health, I think has been the biggest improvement I've seen. I do supplement some with MCT oil because of the benefits that has for the brain. I have found that to be true for me from a focus perspective. Um, I'm a director at a software firm, and so working all day in front of a computer, I've got to be on, and I've noticed that that really does help me.
The um, what was I going to say? When you were eating all those smoothies and acai bowls and all that stuff, were you? I mean, now eating kind of a meat focused diet, your protein is very very easy to get protein on a meat focused diet. I mean, you got to work to be protein deficient in that regard, but it's not that hard if you're focusing on vegetable kale smoothies. It's going to be difficult. Did you see a change in the amount of protein you're consuming now versus prior to?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely eating way more protein. I've never been one to track a lot of macros, to be honest. I'm not that kind of person. Um, and even when I transitioned into this diet, I did a little bit at the beginning, but I'm more just, eat intuitively, eat until I'm satiated, which I mean, if you're eating a steak, like you can only eat so much and you're like, I'm done. And so I don't worry that much. But to answer your question, I'm eating a lot more protein, but I'm not tracking because I feel like I'm eating until I'm full, but I don't ever get that full feeling like I used to get eating all the smoothie bowls where I would like, be like bloated full. So it's not that type of full feeling.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. We have these concepts of satiety and satiation, and
Yeah.
you can get a good satiety when you're eating a nice complement of protein and fat. Do very good job at that. And some people need that stretch. I'm one of those people. Quite honestly, I like to have a big full tummy when I get done eating because I'm just a big guy that eats a lot. But that's interesting. So, do you find that even though you've backed off on the intensity of the workouts, are you still feeling you're staying pretty in pretty decent shape?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. In fact, I mean, I feel like I'm getting stronger than I used to be because I've really changed my focus from overexertion, which I didn't realize, right? I would go to these really intense classes and feel like I'm supposed to be really exhausted at the end because I just exerted myself. But the fact is that even after I had that smoothie, like for the rest of the day, I was pretty exhausted. So changing it up to kind of just focus more on walking or incline walking, maybe some stairmaster for like 15 to 20 minutes, combined with really heavy weights that were really challenging for me, really just makes me feel stronger and more fit. And I actually see better results now because I upped my weight from like, 5-pound dumbbells to, 15 and 20. So that was a change for me for the better. I'm going to answer some questions in the chat. Let's see. There's a question about fish, pork, lamb, or stick mostly to beef. So I eat a lot of fish, a lot of pork. I love pork. I don't really eat lamb very often. Sometimes I do. I do eat a lot of beef, steaks, ground beef. But I don't have any protein shakes. I don't do anything like that. So if anybody else has questions, pop them in here.
I was going to ask you, we talked about changing the exercise and the things you're focusing on now. As far as diet is concerned, because people are asking, well, what are you actually eating now? Are you eating a variety of protein sources? Are you doing any kind of supplementation, protein powders or stuff like that? So what's your diet look like today?
No, so my diet, like typical day, is I don't really get hungry until around 11. So I have coffee. I'm a coffee drinker. I love that. I don't worry about it. And around 11, 12, I'll have my brunch, which is what I call it. But usually that's several eggs and bacon, or a cold steak out of the fridge, sliced up. Um, that's generally what I have, or some bacon. So then for dinner, I'll usually eat 2 meals a day. For dinner, it's usually like a steak or some burger patties or some sort of ground meat. You know, just a variety. I don't get tired of eggs. I eat a ton of eggs. I don't think that there's personally any better protein than that or a steak. Plus, it's just really satisfying to me, and I don't get tired of it. So,
Yeah, I think that's a really important concept, the satiation or the satisfaction of the food, so it doesn't lead you to want to constantly eat or snack. And I would certainly agree that as a complete food source, not just protein, but also essential fats, steak and eggs is tremendous. In fact, I just had that for breakfast shortly before we
yeah.
started. I had 6 eggs in a 1 pound New York strip, and so that was a perfect little breakfast for me.
Yeah.
How about family? I mean, I didn't get into, if you've got family around you, are they thinking you're crazy, or what's the deal with that?
Yeah, no, that's really funny because it's been an interesting journey with my family. I am trying to lead by example and share information but not force, because I just don't think that that's the right way to go. I think as people see me heal and feel better and get stronger and be, dedicated to being healthy, I think that's a great example for those around us. But yeah, I've got a husband and a 13-year-old daughter, and I try to encourage them to at least eat lower carb, but they're not keto. But they have supported me in my journey, and so has my family. So yeah.
Um, I don't know if are you subject to, I mean, some people have social media accounts, some don't. Do you have anybody that you sort of said, hey, this has worked for me, and they've tried it because of what you've been doing?
Yeah. Well, actually, somebody in my family recently, we got together for July 4th, and she said, because of you, I actually started eating more meat and eggs, and I've never felt better. And that was just one person, Shawn, and that made my day. I mean, And that's all I care about. That's why I started my Instagram account and my YouTube channel, to share my experience and hoping that it's going to help other people open their eyes to, you're eating plant-based, but you're really missing out on so much nutrition. And for her to say that she was plant-based really made a big impact on me. And I feel like, okay, I'm going to keep doing this. It's important work.
Yeah, I see it literally every single day. Just people in general noticing tremendous improvements in their life when they include more whole animal foods in their diet, and then a lot of ex-plant based people too. And in fact, many of the people in this meeting right now are former either vegetarian, vegan, or something like that, and they've seen a tremendous improvement for whatever reason. For some people, it may work okay, but for many people, it doesn't. And I think it's important to realize, what we're doing. What is the climate like outside of weather, but climate as far as, is there any sort of concern, people like eating meat there? I know there's probably some good barbecue. I know North Carolina is known for barbecue, although I will say I think Texas barbecue is better. I know it pisses some people off. But what are your any trouble doing a meat-based diet there? Is that crazy?
No, I don't have any trouble here. There's a lot of meat eaters in South Carolina. So that's not a challenge, but I would challenge you. Like, I grew up on North Carolina barbecue. It's the best. And barbecue is a noun, by the way, people. It's a noun. But yeah, no, there's plenty of local farmers here who are raising heritage pigs. You can get raw dairy if you want. You can get half a cow. It's very accessible here. I'd frankly mostly shop the deals at the grocery stores. I'm a sucker for a deal, and with meat prices, that's the way my family goes. So.
Yeah, and I guess you mentioned, because we're talking. I think when I'm talking about brisket, and you may be talking about pork ribs or something like. So there's a different nuance in there.
Yeah.
And that brings up an important point. You are buying what you feel you're best able to afford, and it's often going to be a grain finished supermarket commodity beef product, and you're getting good results with that. Is that fair to say?
It is fair to say, and I just think it's frankly amazing. I never kind of thought that this was what I would be eating and feeling so great.
Did you, outside of, you had the Hashimoto's, thyroiditis, the hypothyroidism, the gut issues, anything else you see that got changed or better? Mood, skin, I don't know, outlook, anything? Did you see anything change with the dietary change besides those things?
Yeah. If I really think back on it, I would say there were other things in my body that were getting inflamed that no longer are. So, for example, I had some eczema that would randomly pop up on my fingers. I had some that would pop up around my eyes. None of that happens anymore. That's completely gone. My skin is the clearest it's ever been. I think if any other women are on here in their 30s, like, you still get acne, you still struggle with that hormone acne. I was struggling with that. My skin is very clear now. I don't have any problems with that. I would say the other thing too, Shawn, is like just my cycle. I never have problems with that. I feel completely normal almost all the time, which is a really, really big deal to a lot of women. So I think that there's something to be said for an animal-based diet and helping get through that cycle time too.
Yeah, I've seen just countless number of women with improvements in fertility. Those that had PCOS significantly got better, went away, perimenopausal symptoms, on and on and on. So certainly I think it has a role there. And I can't, I can only sympathize. I can't experience that, but I know it's beneficial. Do you have any other sort of advice for anybody that might be where you were with thyroid issues, gut issues? What would you suggest to them?
Gosh, my suggestion is, like, don't wait so long to go get a comprehensive lab panel done. I waited too long. It was kind of the thing of like, oh, maybe I'll feel better next week. And next week goes and comes. And then years of your life go by. So I would say don't ignore your body and you have an intuition that likely something's going on that's not right, especially with the bloating. And then I would say, yeah, go. It's easy to go get a panel done, and then just research, be your own advocate. Take your health in your own hands to a certain extent. Of course, I had a doctor I was working with, but at that point, you've got their backing. Somebody who is backing an animal-based way of eating was really helpful for me, and she understood that. And then at that point, like really listening to your body as you go through that phase of elimination diet and experimentation, that's really the only way to do it. I mean, certainly there are a lot of people that I followed on YouTube or Instagram that helped me along the way. And that was part of my journey too.
My final point here. Some people would suggest, and that this sort of diet, an animal-based diet, which is heavy in saturated fat, higher in cholesterol, is going to put you at an increased risk for heart disease. Whether that's true or not, I think is still debatable, quite honestly. But if it did, let's just say it increased your risk for heart disease by 20%. Given where you were before versus where you are now, is that a risk you'd be willing to trade off, or what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I feel like that's a hot topic right now. I'm continuing to do my own research based on, resources that I'm trying to find. I have some stats on my personal cholesterol. I was at 166 and now I'm at 216. And that was, pre and post. My doctor, I recently went and he's like, I'm not worried about that. You are a picture of health. You're doing great. I would say I wouldn't worry about it. I think that given all of the other improvements I've seen in my body and my mind, I'd take that small risk.
That's interesting. And like I said, I think it's a very nuanced topic, and but anyway, I think it's just something you have to make your own decision point of it. Quality of
Yeah.
life versus potential, and I mean potential, not confirmed risk. And so, anyway, well, where do people find you on social media and on? I know you mentioned Instagram, YouTube. So, what are those account names?
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram under Ketovore Lifestyle. And then same on YouTube, Ketovore Lifestyle. And I do just a lot of like what I eat every day, because that's what people want to know when they're exploring these types of dietary changes. Like, what do I eat? How do I face that? And I'm trying to be a resource for people, mostly who are like, new to that concept, and showing them that it's not scary and you can be healthy. And it's also really, really simple and does not have to be complicated.
Yeah, my things are very boring. It's the same thing all the
Yes,
time. So
exactly. Boring is
anyway,
good. It's easy, right?
well, but you get your excitement in other aspects. I mean, I still enjoy the heck out of what I eat. But anyway, well, Kelly, this has been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much. The rest of you guys, I unfortunately got to run. I've got a super crazy busy day today, but we'll talk to you soon. And the rest of you guys will see you tomorrow. Kelly, thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks, Shawn. I appreciate it.
All right, you guys take care. Bye, everybody.
Bye.